Well, I'll start out by introducing myself. I'm Walter McIntyre. I'm Schulte's territory representative in the southern part of the United States. I'm sitting here with some folks that I started working with in the mid-2000s, 2005, 2006, that are the people that do the Turnpikes in the state of Oklahoma. We met these folks at a farm show. They bought an initial unit from us and have grown to where they are running 4 20-foot cutters and 15-foot cutters.
Yep.
We're sitting here with Roman Albers and Larry Rinels with Lot Maintenance Company, and I'm just going to turn it over to them and let us talk about how they started with their initial unit and why they bought a Schulte in the first place to compare to other mowers, and how they've grown since then and what they're doing today as far as the number of acres they run with 19 of our mowers. So I'm going to turn it over to Larry and Roman and let them just kind of visit with you as to what they do and how they get it done. Go ahead, fellas.
Like Walter said, we met at the farm show, looked at this piece of equipment. Prior to that, we had been mowing a lot of work for the city of Tulsa. The city of Tulsa used to do the highway mowing before the state took it back over. We were getting paid by the acre, so we were always worried about production and cost per acre. We were having problems with our cutters. We won't mention any names right now, but some of the competition. When we tried the first Schulte, it was a little pricey. That was our first reaction, but we got over that. We said, well, it's worth it. Let's try it and see what it does. Walter says it's going to work. We thought, well, that's salesman talk, but we tried it anyhow. We got it out there, and it didn't take us long to figure out that that was the cutter we wanted. We were having problems keeping our cutters operating. We were pulling them with large tractors because we wanted to have enough horsepower to move the cutter around to stay out of trouble, because we're mowing a lot of slopes. We wanted to have a big enough a piece of equipment where we didn't get in trouble. So we were mowing at a pretty high rate of speed because we had the horsepower to do it. We didn't have the cutter to stay up, and we were wearing cutters out and tearing them up. You know, I'm just sitting here thinking, funniest thing, sort of deja vu, the first time I looked at a Schulte cutter was at the Tulsa Farm Show. So I'm there looking at the Schulte cutter, and I'm looking at this, and I look up, and there's Larry on the other side of the cutter looking at it. I didn't even know he was there. So, I mean, we both laid our eyes on it about the same time, and I'm going,
well, that's it.
you know, we're going, and then we said, God damn, look at this, you know, look at this, you know, look at this. And we kept looking at all the stuff, and we liked everything that we saw about it, but it was ironic that we both walked up to that.
So you two weren't at the show
together?
No, we went separate, but somehow we ended up right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just stands out to you when you're, especially in that situation when you're going around looking at several pieces of equipment, just the superior construction of it. You know, that's what I was looking at. I go, hey, this is going to last.
Yeah. Because that was a point in time we were having a lot of problem with, and we tried 2 or 3 other cutters, okay? And we were having problems with these cutters, and so we knew what to look for. Well, what's that weld look like, or what's that gearbox look like, or you know, what's these sidewalls look like, and how thick is the deck? I mean, because we were having these problems, we knew what the hell to look for, and that makes a big difference on that. And it got to the point where at that point in time, price, you know, we coughed a little bit on the price the first time, but we said, hell, it's worth it, you know, let's try it. But it was ironic that we were both sitting there at the same time he was looking at the left wing and I was looking at the right wing, and I said, damn, what the hell are you doing here? And he said, but I remember that was a Saturday morning, that's the first time we ever looked at that old green cutter. But
well, I mean, it gets your attention just the color alone.
Yeah.
And then you get up there and then you look at like I said, the construction of it is by far, you know, superior.
The Schulte proved to be, even though it was pricey, you sort of get what you're paying for on that deal. We probably bought our first cutter in 2005, and it's unbelievable. Here it is, winter of 2014, we still have that cutter. If we could get 3 years out of a cutter before that of the competing brand, 3 or 4 years, we felt real lucky. We still have a few of the competitors' cutters, but we keep them around and keep them close in proximity to the city of Tulsa, where we use them on lighter work until they're ready to retire those out. But when we retire those out, we always replace them with another Schulte. We found a good example is we were having a problem with the other cutters. When we first bought our Schulte, we didn't know how bad our cutters were until we put a Schulte on the ground. Let me put it that way. We brought in your competitors, put 3 units together side by side, took them out, had the factory people come in from the competitors and said, why won't your cutter do what the Schulte does? Well, you don't have it adjusted right, or you're not doing this. So we brought them out, we ran them side by side, the same speed and the same height of grass, and it was just turned into a big head scratching contest with the competitors. They tried to adjust them, they did this, they said, well, slow down, you're going too fast. I said, well, I don't have to slow down with the Schulte, you know? I'm all about getting acres cut. When I slow down to 3 miles an hour, I'm going to cut my production by 25%. So that wasn't the answer. We get paid by the acre, so productivity is a big deal for us. Ground speed's a big deal for us. We're not going to go so fast that we have to come back and touch it up and leave rooster tails. We're still concerned about quality, so we make a judgment when we're out in the field. How can we mow today? What speed can we mow? How dry is it? What are the wet conditions? It's all about acreage productivity and keeping that cutter running.
We're sitting here looking at this map, Larry and Roman, of the state of Oklahoma, and you talk about acres. And as we mentioned in the introduction, you were running today with 15 15-foot mowers and 4 20-foot Schulte mowers. You mentioned acres. How many acres is this territory from Wichita Falls, Texas, right north of Wichita Falls, Texas, on this particular stretch of Turnpike up to Joplin, Missouri, and then in and around the Turnpikes that go down toward Fort Smith and the other one out to Lawton? Okay. The Turnpike acres, now we're not talking about the acres in and around Tulsa, but the Turnpike acres, how many acres are we talking about?
Turnpike acres, you might note that when we talk about going from Texas to Missouri, that's I-44. We're mowing Interstate 44 all the way through the state of Oklahoma. All the Turnpike contracts that we have right now, it's about 17,000 acres of the Turnpikes. In October of this last year of 2013, we added everything up in between the Turnpikes and Oklahoma Department of Transportation and the city of Tulsa. We mowed over 23,000 acres in the month of October. It's sort of hard to believe, but when you start adding these things up, it becomes a pretty large number.
You do the Turnpikes, Roman, four cuttings a year?
Turnpikes are done 4 times a year. The ODOT interstate highways in Tulsa County are done 7 or 8 times a year. So when we're mowing some of these turnpikes, you got to remember we're only mowing the clear zone 4 times a year. The clear zone being the first 30 foot away from the highway and all the interchanges. Twice a year, we go fence to fence. We'll get into some material twice a year that the Johnson grass is taller than the tractor. Unbelievable, taller than the tractor, because it hadn't been cut for 4 or 5 months and you have a wet spring. We'll mow the fence to fence in June, and we'll mow it again in October. And in June, if you have a wet spring, you'll have 5 and 6 and 7 foot Johnson grass in those areas.
Roman, Larry, what do you contribute the fact that you can get that much done with this number of mowers? The fact that you evidently are running a little faster with the Schulte mowers? What about a Schulte mower that gives you the ability to run faster than what you used to use?
Well, ground speed is the key, okay? What is my ground speed? Is it 3.4 mile an hour? Is it 5.3 mile an hour? We're going to push that envelope because I'm getting paid by the acre, and I've got so much to do. I've got to get this stuff done in a certain time frame. So ground speed is everything, because ground speed relates to acreages mowed per hour. We think the Schulte cuts better, period. We don't have a clear explanation for you on why it does, because your blade tip speed is in the ballpark with some of your competitors. We have come to the fact that we think it's the size and the draft of the sidewalls. It must create enough suction to get that grass up there where we can cut it. But it's unbelievable the quality of cut that we can get at what we would call a high rate of mowing speed. And what we'll do in the morning, you know, we'll mow all day. We may go back with the tractor in the morning. There'll be a few rooster tails. Most of the rooster tails we're getting are tire tracks coming back up, and they'll be shooting back up. So we'll touch that up right away. But it's phenomenal. We don't have much rework. We don't have much rework.
The sidewall, in your mind, is an issue that probably has something to do with being able to run a little faster and do a little cleaner cut.
You know, that's our only explanation, because you know, like I say, your gearboxes, your blade tip speed. Now your gearboxes, I'm going to say they're as good as any we've ever seen. We don't have much gearbox problem. The warranty program, we've dropped a couple gearboxes, tore them up. It's pretty easy to tell whether there was a mechanical problem in the gearbox or we hit something. The warranty's been real good. They've replaced a couple of them. We've had to rework a couple of them, but all in all, for what we're doing, we have no gearbox problem at all, and that's a big deal. Blades, and I don't know why everybody tells me the blades come from the same place, but I'm telling you, the blades last longer on the Schulte cutter than they do on your competitors. We'll run a set of blades, oh my goodness, 400 or 500 hours, 300 to 500 hours. And we've gotten to where we don't ever sharpen them, except maybe the last 2 or 3 days we'll put a grinder on them, morning and evening. But what happens when you put the grinder on them, you lose your tensile a little bit and you lose your edge, and so you can't do that very long. You've pretty much lost the blade. You know, the blades aren't terribly expensive, so we change them probably sooner than we really have to. That's a low operating expense. The blades are not bad. But your blades running on the Schulte cutters, I don't care if they come from the same supplier. For some reason, whether it's design of them or whatever, we don't get the bend on the tip of the blades that we do on our other cutters. And that's a big deal, because it saves me, you know, it's not so much the expensive blade, but the time of changing, the time of sharpening and stuff like that. Where you, probably the only downfall from a maintenance standpoint on a Schulte cutter is all the grease points. Well, that's just a man-hour problem. The upside of that is I don't have to spend a lot of other man-hours repairing that cutter, because of the grease points, the wear points, and that's probably one reason that we still have that cutter that's 9 years old. Okay, we've changed some bushings, we've done this, we've done that, and by the excessive, you know, we call it, when we first got the cutter, we thought, what in the hell are they doing? You got 25 grease zerks on this thing, you know, or whatever. But we've figured it out in a hurry, because we just don't tear things up. The bearings are better, the bushings wear better, just everything is, so that you've got it figured out. You know, and that's the maintenance part of it. Once you get your hand on them and a guy is in the business and he knows what he's doing and he figures it out, then it's, like I say, that's the big picture. The small picture is looking at, why am I $5,000 higher than the other guy? Oh dear, you know. But at the end of the year, when I could say, well, this cutter was 33% more productive. I cut more with that cutter, 33% more than I did last year with the other one. Well, all of a sudden, I've generated 33% more revenue with that cutter. Hell, that $5,000, I recouped it 10 times, you know, in 1 year. So when you look at the big picture, it's all about it. Plus, it's not down. It's looking at the big picture. I guess your job is to tell people what we're talking about right here. Yeah, you are a pricey unit, but I think it's important that you stay the best, most durable unit.
Well, we're talking about one of the 50 states, being Oklahoma being one, and we're doing this in behalf of what Roman is able to do to capture the market here in Oklahoma. He certainly has other potential competitors, and in this business that he's doing in Oklahoma, it's on who can do it the most efficient and still make money. And here in Oklahoma, the other competitors that are running other kinds of mowers are not as efficient as Roman is. our lot maintenance company, Larry and Roman here, were able to do. So what we're doing here is to show folks in other areas what can be done in their area with a unit. As far as the mower is concerned, might be a little bit more money, but we're talking about the total operation, the total project.
Here's a good point, Walter. We just rebid 4 contracts last week, okay? These were Turnpikes we had. We rebid them last week. They were up. They had to rebid. We got all of them back. What we found is, let me say 5 or 6 years ago, I'd have 3 or 4 or 5 companies bidding on these jobs. Last week, I only had 1 competitor bid against me. They have found that they cannot compete with us on price, and they haven't figured out why. Now we do, and we run the bigger tractors. We run the most expensive cutter. We do have, I would say our operators are probably superior. I've got a lot of 20-year employees, and that makes a difference too. I don't have a new guy on the tractor every day, but they just can't compete with us on price point, but yet I'm running the bigger tractors and the most expensive cutters. You know, what the hell does that tell you? So we've got a niche in the market, so that's the big picture that we talk about.
And since you started with the Schulte Mowers, you've been acquiring more contracts in the state all along.
Yeah, we've grown considerable. Yeah. It's become, it's just because we can do it at a certain price point and make money. I sure wouldn't do it. We don't need any more experience. We've been at it for 37 years now, so, but we figured out, you know, when we look at the big picture, we go ahead and spend the money on the big tractors, on the big cutters, on the good cutters, and by the end of the year, we have recouped that investment several times over. I can run my tractors a little bit longer because I don't have to run a high RPM on them, so I can get an extra year or 2 out of a tractor where I don't tear the motors up. We run these cutters longer. I mean, on the big picture, when we do a per acreage cost on equipment, there's just no comparison with the Schulte cutter compared to anyone else, and we've tried every one. We've tried them all.
Yeah, I know you have. I've seen them on your lot before we started with you, or when we started with you.
But so it gives us a tremendous advantage. So when you hook up the good people with the best cutters that we think are the best cutters with the big tractors, and when I say big tractor, I'm talking large horsepower tractors, so that you've got, you know, we overpower these mowers something terrible, okay? But I don't want to lose my blade tip speed when I get in 3-foot grass, okay? Johnson grass with a foot of Bermuda grass underneath when it's wet. I've got enough horsepower. The cutter is tough enough. We don't tear up many clutches. That surprises me. We don't have a clutch problem. Every now and then some, but a lot of time it's operator error, but we don't tear up many clutches. We don't tear up many gearboxes. Usually when we rip a gearbox, one time we had a leak and the guy didn't check it. We usually check him every morning, but they let it get low on fluid. He didn't check it. We burned up a bearing. That was our problem. One time we hit a drainage ditch and broke a shaft, you know, those kind of things. But man, when we maintain these things, the gearboxes are tough.
You mentioned drive lines, Roman, and this is one of the things that I like to point out to people when I'm talking to people about our Schulte mowers, and that's relationship to drive lines. The drive line that's on this XH-1500 series mower that you run is a specially built Bondiola Bavesi drive line. As far as I know, this particular series of Schulte mowers is the only place that we use this drive line. And it is a premium drive line. It's more money than if we were to put a cheaper series of drive line on the mower. And you're responding as to the reason that we run that drive line is because you get good service out of it.
It's unbelievable service. I don't want to call them bulletproof, but they're the closest thing to it. We used to have to run drive lines with CV joints in them to make them work. We are all the time replacing drive lines. Your drive lines are, unless we do something really stupid with them and tear them up, there is almost never a mechanical failure on your drive lines. It's always an operator problem when we have a problem with the drive line. You
mentioned drive lines. In most of your 15-foot mowers, I think all of your 15-foot mowers have what we call our equal angle hitch on them.
Yes.
And this gets away from the need of having a
CV joint.
How do you like that?
Wouldn't be without it. Whoever engineered that had his act together. It works. It's like maybe somebody that was out in the field and, instead of an engineer doing it off a blueprint, it was actually somebody that was out there doing the work and he figured it out, because it makes a lot of sense. It works. So, we started out, we do a lot of things here at Lot Maintenance. We started out 37 years ago as a sweeping contractor, okay? Sweeping parking lots, sweeping streets. The city of Tulsa came to us and said, I can't keep my tractors and my cutters running. Could you mow for us? We said, sure. So that's how we got into the highway mowing. They came to us asking for us if we could get into their highway, because we were dependable, we were getting all their stuff done, they didn't have problems with us. We got into that. In 2 years we had all of their highways, and they shut their mowing division down. The city of Tulsa does no mowing now. Maybe some of their parks, and that's about it. But they figured out in a hurry. We took a big headache of theirs and took care of it for them, and that's how we got into the mowing business. It's probably one of we do a lot of commercial street sweeping. We do a lot of mowing, obviously. We do a lot of sewer and underground sewer and camera work. We have a trucking division. We do a lot of hauling mulch and stuff like that. But by far and above, our mowing division is our largest division now. It's a big market area. We've gained a big niche in that area by being cost competitive and make money. We're doing a lot more work, but because of the people and the equipment that we chose to use and the tractors and whatever, we're finding that our employees are generating more revenue per man hour. Okay, so even though we haven't grown manpower wise, we've probably grown 20% in volume just because of using the right equipment in whatever division we do. The mowing division is the only division where we buy all new equipment, tractors and cutters, because there's not anything out on the market that's worth buying that's used. It's all wore out, so we buy that new. And that's what it's all about. I talk about we're getting more work done with the same amount of men, and with, let's say I've increased my acreage 33%, I haven't increased my equipment or my manpower 33%. Maybe it's a 10 or 15% increase, and that's because of the equipment that we're using. We get more production per hour, and it's a combination of cutter, tractor, maintenance, and operator.
Total package.
That's the whole thing. And before, our weakest link in the past had always been the cutter. Always been the cutter. Because we always started with the big tractors. We identified those right away because of the safety issues. I wanted a big tractor on that hillside, okay? I wanted to have enough tractor to get up that hillside, to get down, to get out of trouble when I went into a slide. Every tractor we have is four-wheel drive. I never mentioned that, but it's absolutely essential for safety. When you get behind some of these guardrails on a pretty good slope, you want to have enough unit to get out of there. You know?
Looking at this map of Oklahoma and how you've grown and the amount of acres that you're doing with 15 15-foot cutters and 4 20-foot cutters, and cost of acres that you're talking about, I see the day when the bean counters in Oklahoma City might be looking at a different way. They consider all the rest of the state of Oklahoma and what they're spending to get their mowing done. I'm kind of summarizing the miles then that you're doing, what we have here in pink on the map.
Oh, I-44, it would be 447 lineal miles. Is that what we're doing on that?
That's it, all
Yeah, for the turn.
all your turnpike.
So that's a
And
month.
in acres, converting that to acres.
That'd be, that would be, how many? Oh, that would be, that contract would be about 17,500 acres.
4 times a year.
4 times a year each time. You've got 17,500 acres each time.
15-foot mowers and 4 20-foot mowers.
See, and then you put that with the stuff in Tulsa County that we're doing. That's 4,300 acres done 8 times a year. So there's another 35,000 acres. You know, it adds up in a hurry.
That's a lot of productivity with 19 units.
Yeah. And it's, you know, like I say, it's a combination of the good cutter, the good tractor, the good maintenance, and your operators.
And we're operating units that started buying in about 2005.
2005, yeah.
Well, it is indeed a privilege to have you as a user. We're grateful for you spending this time with us. Larry, do you have anything that you would like to add, Roman and I here, or what?
Right off the bat, I knew, because I was more involved in it then, at that time, that price difference, your initial price difference, I think you make that up in the first season.
Yeah, we've proven
Just
that.
in parts and increased production. You know, I said that a long time ago when you asked me about them, and I'm still saying that today.
We found that all the innovative changes that you've made, you know, the walking wheels. Yours was the first cutter we used the walking wheels on. It's a no-brainer. I mean, it helps. It saves that cutter. I think it extends the life by 25% because it keeps you from bottoming out. It's the worst thing when you're mowing along and you drop into a washout, or, you know, when I'm mowing 5-foot grass, I cannot see all the holes. We're going to drop that thing in a hole. But the walking wheels helps you from, hell, that's why we don't tear up so many gearboxes. That walking cutter will get you through that washout without tearing that cutter, tearing the drive line up, busting a PTO shaft. It's a no-brainer. We run walking wheels on everything we run.
Well, that's what really stood out to me about the mower is the walking axles on it.
Yep.
And because at that time with a different brush hog that we was using, we was having bits with blades. And a lot of it was because they're bottoming out.
Every time we hit a hole.
I mean, in this particular unit, once it was bent, I mean, you got to change them.
It wouldn't cut, yeah. So
Or
it's
double cut, triple cut, and we just couldn't do it. And I said, well, hey, that might take care of that. And I mean, it did. I mean, Roman touched on it, how much better it cuts. I mean, we're not saying we don't bend the blades on them, but it still cuts good, even with them bent.
So in all this, we talked about depth of sidewall. Now we're to the walking axles.
Yeah.
Unique features about this mower.
Yeah.
It all relates
And I
to.
don't know, I know a couple of your competitors tried to do the same thing, the walking axle, and one of the units that they gave me when we first went to Schulte, I tried one of theirs also. The one that they replaced, the brand new one I bought with, and we couldn't get to cut right, and they couldn't either. The one that they sent me to replace it had their version of the walking axle, and it tore up in, I think it was 3 days. They had to go out there, take pictures of it, give it to our dealer so he could send it back to them so they could construct a new one and address that issue. And I mean, it just...
You know, state of Kansas went to Schulte cutters for a while, and then they respec'd. When they wrote the new specs, they spec'd Schulte cutters. Duh. Okay? They're higher, but the people, that says a lot for the administration in Kansas, because whoever's using those got enough sense to say they're worried about productivity too.
Yeah.
Okay?
A lot of Schultes in Kansas.
There's a lot of Schultes in Kansas. Even though it's a higher unit, you have enough of a differentiation in your product where it can be spec'd a little bit different, whether it's tongue weight or whatever, and that's what the state of Kansas elected to do, which is real ironic, but somebody's using their head there because they're not worried about the front end cost, they're worried about the year end cost, okay? And it's a big deal. I don't want to educate my competition, but that's what it's all about. And some people in the state of Kansas, some divisions have figured that out. There's a reason they're spec'ing them. So, and there's always going to be highways of getting cut, whether it's the state doing it themselves as they wise up. I think if Oklahoma Turnpike Authority got back into the mowing business, there's nothing else. They would not even think about buying anything besides a Schulte cutter because they've seen what we do with them. They cannot believe. The superintendent told me one time, he said, God damn, he said, we used to mow these things ourselves, and we would barely get done in time for us to start mowing again in-house. He says, you guys are in and out of here in 7 or 8 days. He says, and he says, damn, you use bigger tractors, you got these big tractors. And he says, what's the deal with these green mowers, I said, well, that's part of the secret. He said, man, you guys mow fast. He says, he used to mow, he says, I could sit there and count the lugs on my tire turning, okay? That's how slow I mowed. He said, man, you guys are getting it. And I said, well, is it satisfactory? He said, oh yeah, the cutting's fine. You know, the quality's good. How do you move along so fast? So, you know, if they ever went back, you know, we've educated them. That's what they would ask for. They would do it with a bigger tractor with a green machine behind it. Hey, what we'll do is a crew will go out with maybe 3 or 4 15s and a 20. Okay, and we'll put the 20s in the big areas, and the 15s will keep doing the in and outs and the cut ins, and let the 20 cut the big wide open areas. And so we've gotten a little bit smarter, and that's helped our productivity a bunch. So that's why we have like 4 20s and 15 or 20 15 footers. Is we team them up. They run as a team, and put the right cutter in the right application. Okay, because hell, you're gaining. You know, you don't gain. Well, you gain a third, but with the overlap, it's still about the same. It's just, it really helps productivity, but it's the toughest unit we found, period.